Yes, the honourable member for St. Michael Northeast.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. It is with a heavy heart, truly.
Yes, honourable member, just a minute. Just to indicate that the allotted television time is 3 hours, 58 minutes, I'm told.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
3 hours and 50 minutes. I don't think I shall need that today, sir.
Very well.
Thank you. It is with a heavy heart, sir, that I rise to respond to what you've just indicated was 3 hours and 50 minutes of torture yesterday afternoon, masquerading as this government's annual financial statement and budgetary proposals. Even as I drove to the House yesterday, the weather across the country seemed to foreshadow the gloom that enveloped Barbados. It was overcast, just as the mood of the people was in anticipation of the speech of the member for St. Michael Northwest. In truth, Mr. Speaker, if it were not for the pain inflicted on Barbadians, there would be nothing to comment on in his speech. This budget will be better remembered for the things that it did not say than for the things that it said. The Minister of Finance has succeeded in surpassing the 2008 budget grab and has dragged from the people of Barbados another $200 million in taxation from the pockets of people who are already tax fatigued to the point of despair. And I want to repeat it, sir. $200 million in taxes coming at a time when people are not in a state to be able to accommodate any further extraction from their pockets. And it was done, sir, with a spirit of callousness, which is what makes it all the more reprehensible. While he patted himself on the back with one hand, the other hand was deep in your pocket, taking out money by stealth. And it was amazing that the run-up to his speech, if you were to use cricketing terms, didn't start from the 3W stand end. It started all the way from the University of the West Indies to come right back up to give himself self-praise because no one else in the country was prepared to praise him for the last 19 months. There was no strategy, sir, announced. Self-congratulation. And we all know that self-congratulation cannot be a substitute for sound fiscal and economic policy. There was no strategy to encourage growth, no initiatives to create new jobs, no relief for the most vulnerable among us. This government continues to punish the people of Barbados for the failure, their failure, to get it right. This, Mr. Speaker, is now the 6th attempt at trying to stabilize this economy. And bear with me. The medium-term fiscal strategy in 2010, the revised medium-term fiscal strategy thereafter, the August 2013 budget, the revision to the August 2013 budget in December 2013 when 3,000 people were sent home. The revision to that when additional taxes such as an asset tax on non-bank financial institutions and an increase in excise tax were raised in the estimates of March 2014. And now today, yesterday, number 6, to get it right. They keep trying new formulas and going back to old formulas and failing, sir, dismally, again and again. Tell me, Mr. Speaker, truly, tell me, what have the people of Barbados done to this government other than to put them in power? What have they done? And for putting them in power, They are now to be punished year after year after year by incompetence, lack of vision, and the commitment of the government to a few in this country, no more than 5 people, in the execution of its policies. This minister yesterday asked you to pay more to eat in Barbados. This minister yesterday asked you to pay more to drink milk and to drink juice. This minister yesterday asked you to pay more to live in your own house. This minister yesterday asked you to pay to speak on your cell phone. This minister glories yesterday in the fact that if anybody owes any back taxes at all, they will not be allowed to work in Barbados to pay off the back taxes in the absence of a tax clearance certificate. And what has been the record of this minister in truth and in fact? Let's take 1 minute to go back. The last budget that this minister delivered to this honorable house, he told us, sir, that he was going to get a $100 million loan from the Inter-American Development Bank, a policy-based loan to put tourism on a sound and secure footing. And of that $100 million, he was going to pay off $27 million in arrears that the Barbados Tourism Authority owed to people all across the world. That was the first initiative in the last budget taken by this honorable chamber. And we stand here today. There has been no $100 million loan from the IDB, and the Barbados Tourism Management Inc., the successor to the BTA, now owes away more money than the $27 million to which he referred almost 2 years ago. That is the record of this minister. The minister told us in that same speech that he was going to establish a business facilitation unit. He didn't tell us that, not wanting to give any funds or posts to the Honorable Minister for Commerce, that all he would do was to rename a trade facilitation unit a business and trade facilitation unit, and that in the 22 months, it has had 3 single meetings. No wonder the people in commerce and international business continue to believe that it is still difficult to do business in Barbados. And in that first meeting, the Minister of Commerce and the heads of department attended. And at the second and the third, junior officers attended with no power to change anything in the conduct of commerce in this country. But you know, sir, let us come to yesterday. Because you know the thing that strikes me the most about yesterday? The minister either has a short memory, didn't prepare for his speech, or was ill-served. Because in 2010, the minister announced an initiative that he purported to announce again yesterday in this budget. When the fees for shops were raised by the former Prime Minister, this Minister of Finance in his first budget came into this Parliament and reduced the fees for retail shops for liquor licenses from $1,000 to $500. But yet, yesterday, sir, we are now to have this announced as another new initiative, having been announced by this minister for the same beneficiaries in a budget in this country. Who are we fooling? Who are we fooling? So that those who are listening on are not shopkeepers, but feel, you know, the minister eased the shopkeepers. He didn't ease them. He did that 3-4 years ago, and is still reeling in spite of the reduction of the fee because of the tyranny of the Brian, asking them to produce. You can ask the member for the city of Bridgetown and the member for St. Michael Southeast. When people go now to hold a karaoke, they're being told, don't mind you have an annual liquor license. You have to pay for an occasional liquor license, or you have to pay $100 more for the public entertainment license. And people in this country are being kept above only because they band together and do some shop lines. And the profits are being cut into, to the extent that there may be profits, by additional sums that they now have to pay just to be able to hold a shop line or a karaoke in this country. But it isn't only that issue of credibility, because when it comes to the implementation of policy, the business community is well aware of the failure of this government to follow through. This minister told the providers of direct tourism services that they would get their VAT reduced to 7.5%. He met with them, indicated that 75% of the earnings of restaurants must come from foreign exchange. They indicated to him that that was impractical because there are a lot of tourists who come into Barbados through cruise ships and who cannot, therefore, be counted as those paying in foreign exchange to them because they pay the foreign exchange to the tour operators. It was agreed since 2 years ago that 75% of the money would come from tourists. Do you know, Mr. Speaker, that those same direct tourism service providers do not have the benefit of being able to have a 7.5% VAT rate today as we speak? And 3 years have gone, but we are worried about growth in the economy. And while we're on the subject, sir, about the private sector, this minister made a big song and dance yesterday about expecting growth in the economy to be led by the private sector. But would you believe, sir, there's virtually nothing in here, in this almost 100 pages, that is intended to facilitate growth in the private sector? And if you don't want, sir, to take the word of the opposition, take the word of the business community who met in this country this morning. And I believe the Minister of Commerce was present. I was forced to admit that this government has not distinguished itself in facilitating business for business people in this country. That is what the Minister of Commerce would have said this morning to the private sector of Barbados. One would have expected that after a budget speech coming after none last year, that the private sector and others across Barbados could speak with clarity and confidence as to the way forward and the initiatives that have been put in place to trigger growth in this country. But what did he do instead? The minister boasted that foreign exchange was up, told you that he achieved objective number 1. But you know, sir, you know, the minister did not tell you, I don't know if he told the Prime Minister, and if he didn't, Prime Minister, you need to know, that foreign reserves in Barbados at the end of March 2015 was $34 million less than foreign reserves in March 2014. Can you believe that? The minister chose to compare March foreign reserves with the quarter ending in December. But the quarter ending in December is always less than the quarter ending in March. But you know, sir, he only repeated what the governor of the central bank did in the governor's April financial and economic report. He only repeated it. So you were likely to believe objective number 1, objective number 2, objective number 3. He bragged that the deficit had been reduced by half. But Mr. Speaker, sir, this is deja vu. We've heard it all before. And not only did we hear it before in 2012 for 2011, the Minister of Finance at page 12 of his last budget speech reminded us of the 2011 performance. And listen to him, and I quote, sir, in 2011, page 12, we began to see some progress. Real GDP grew by close to 1%. Does it sound familiar like yesterday? Real GDP grew by close to 1%. Tax revenues improved by nearly 10%. And as a percentage of GDP, the deficit was cut in half. Mr. Speaker, when I heard the Minister of Finance speak yesterday, I did not know whether he was speaking about 2014 or 2011. But what is the truth? That in 2011, the deficit was cut in half because the government transferred payments to the National Insurance Scheme to make so it would not reflect on government's books, would not impact the deficit, and then the government failed to pay suppliers. But all of us know that the number of suppliers who are in fact owed money in Barbados in 2014 and 2015 far exceeds the number and quantum of arrears that was owed in 2011. So this is what you call an idle boast to impress those who do not know better. And the facts must be exposed, because the run-up was worth nothing at the end of the day. His final brag about laying the foundation for return to growth, Mr. Speaker, was a vague pie-in-the-sky promise, boast. And I say to you, sir, let us judge the fiscal adjustment strategy for what it is. And I want the House to listen carefully. The current account deficit, fiscal deficit, is $215 million worse today than it was at the beginning of the 19-month program. The current account fiscal deficit has worsened by $215 million than it did when he started the fiscal adjustment program in August 2013, asking Barbadians to bear sacrifice for him to carry them home safely. The current account debt servicer has worsened by $240 million after the 19-month fiscal consolidation program. The current account interest cost, sir, has worsened by $98 million after the 19-month program. The capital account amortization cost, sir, has increased by $117 million during the 19 months of fiscal consolidation. The cost, sir, of short and medium-term debt has worsened in Barbados in the last 19 months. Mr. Speaker, if that were the sum of it, you would say mission failed, not mission accomplished. But it gets worse. The Central Bank of Barbados, sir, has printed more money after the 19-month program has been completed than it was printing before the start of the 19-month program. And as I said just now, sir, the government of Barbados owes out more money to all and sundry locally and overseas. The growth of the accounts payable has increased during the course of the 19-month program. And finally, sir, in the course of the 19-month program, the international sovereign debt rating of Barbados decreased during the course of that program. And the Minister of Finance wants this House to congratulate him for failure. That is what yesterday was about. Please congratulate me for failure. Well, we will congratulate him for losing weight because he's asked for that too. But we cannot congratulate him for the success of any fiscal consolidation program. Objective 1 failed. March on March, reserves less. Objective 2 failed. And Objective 3, nothing in yesterday's program to put this country on a growth path. That's what the private sector said this morning. He can ask his colleagues sitting next to him what they said. And they said not a single initiative. You know what this program, what this budget was about yesterday, sir? This budget yesterday was a political sleight of hand, purporting to give out, but really grabbing and taking back more. $200 million more. And in his speech, and I don't know how the newspapers have failed to publish it for the people of Barbados, page 77, this is not the speech of the opposition. Look at the table, sir. Milk cess, revenue, $5 million. Basket of goods from the VAT, $20 million. VAT on gambling, $20 million. Corporation tax, $19 million. Income tax, $9 million. But yet he told you he gave you back more. But he's collecting more. Can't work. Land tax, $44 million. Mobile airtime tax, $32.7 million. Sweetened beverage tax, $10 million. Fuel cess, $35 million. SSA tipping fee, $4 million. Government user fees, $6 million. Bringing to a total, sir, according to the Minister of Finance, $204.7 million in new taxes, and nothing to do with the user fees on child care centers and immigration and all other government departments that are to come in the next few months. What did he give you back according to him? A scholarship program of $2.5 million. And I'm going to come to the political sleight of hand shortly, sir. And a reduction in registration fees of $2 million. He gave you back $4.5 million, leaving a net revenue grab by the government of Barbados, by the Minister of Finance, of $200.2 million. Is that a mixed bag? Or is that a grab and a drag? Is that a mixed bag? Or is it a grab and a drag from people who can take no more pressure, having had 7 years of taxes and fees and all kinds of manner of form of money being taken from them? But sir, let me give you the details of the political sleight of hand. And these measures may come to be regarded as political hush measures to create the space for what I will tell you before I sit in here today. Because I have a lot to say in here today, sir. Because this government is continuing to ask Barbadians to suck salt, to bear sacrifice, cannot guarantee that they will carry them to safety. But a few people, no more than can count on one hand in this country, are to live beyond anything that we can contemplate, only to be financed by the sacrifices and hardships of a few. So, yesterday, the Minister of Finance told us that land tax was to have new rates. Listen carefully. He said that the new rate for land tax was $150,000 to be zero-rated. The Minister of Finance forgot to tell the country that this same Minister of Finance, not the one that is no longer with us, in 2011, Mr. Speaker, made all properties under $190,000 in Barbados exempt from land tax. So he shrugs. That's his response now. But it's not the response of a couple or an individual owning a property valued at $190,000 who will now have to find $190 in land taxes after yesterday's budget, when for the last 4 years in Barbados, they would not have paid a single cent in land tax in this country. Could he have the decency to let these people know that he was subjecting them to land taxes again? And what does he do just now? Like a joker? Like a joker? Every other Minister of Finance, the Honourable Member, the Right Honourable Member for St. Peter, and all who served before him, had the decency to let the people of Barbados know when they regrettably had to inflict or to put a tax on them to help run the government affairs of this country. But this minister comes and by omission leaves it to be deduced that tens of thousands of people working as maids, people working as the lower level in administrative offices in the public service, in clerical positions, people in my constituency, all across Bush Hall, all across Codrington Hill, and I can go down one for each of these constituencies on this side and your side too, who have houses valued at 170,000, 180,000. And they're going to learn from the opposition that they're now subject to land taxes in Barbados again? Is this how we do business in this country? I say to you that this government is not fit to govern, not fit to lead the people of this country. But that wasn't the only item of stealth yesterday. The minister told you that the income tax rates, and the people of Barbados have to get wise to the style of this minister and this government. Oh, I am giving you a reduction in rates of income tax, 35 to 33%, whatever. Anytime they offer you something, lock down everything you got fast. Lock up your bag, lock up your house, lock up the windows. Lock it down fast. Because what does he come and do with the same breath? Then he says, I'm taking away from you all of your allowances except the personal allowances, the allowance to trade unions, and the allowance to a charity, one charity. So what happens now, and it's a serious matter, because I know that the member for St. Peter will and can speak to this, that one of the few tools that a government of Barbados has to influence growth in a country and to the behavior of sections of the country has been the use of fiscal incentives. And the minister comes in the middle of a low growth or a recessionary period, depending on whether you listen to the central bank or the Statistics Services Department, and tries to change a culture. What does he do? He tells you that he's leaving you with these few. He doesn't tell you you lose mortgage interest. He doesn't tell you that you lose home repairs. He doesn't tell you that you lose credit unions. He doesn't tell you that pensioners are now kneeling. I've had no less than 10 calls today from pensioners and for people saving in registered retirement savings plans, do not know where they stand, made commitments on the understanding that they would get some kind of allowance against their income tax. Mr. Speaker, you know what was the most classic statement? That the minister told you that you will have more money in your pockets. But you remember what I just read to you from page 77? How can you, the Republic of Barbados, have more money in your pockets, but the government can collect $9 million more in revenue from income tax? But this is more than not good at numbers. This is a magic show. He tells you you will have more money in your pockets, but he tells the people and Parliament that income tax can collect $9 million more. This is madness in this country. And when I tell you they're not fit to govern, believe what I tell you, sir. But it doesn't end there. Remember I told you when he gives you a benefit, lock down and batten down. Because early on in the speech, the minister came and told us that he was giving back $2 million in reduction of fees to businessmen, tradesmen. Pull out that phone and let me call out all these people that are affected, please. Businessmen, tradesmen, and professionals. Their fees were to reduce by $2 million. And then he turns around before the end of the speech. Oh my dear, oh my dear, oh my dear. And tells you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm going to spend a few minutes on this because this is so insidious, it is not funny. He tells you that if you happen to have some arrears, that you cannot come the next time you have to register, seek to register, to do your business, to be an electrician, to be an auto mechanic, to be a lab technician, to be a nurse, to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be an engineer, to be a water sports operator. Let me carry you through the list, sir, because I believe that the people of Barbados have no clue. the tens of thousands of people that are affected by that policy statement yesterday, and are going to come to the implementation of it and implementation capacity for it. Chapter 373 of the Laws of Barbados, the Profession, Trade and Business Regulations Act. At the first schedule, second and third schedule lists a number of persons, professions, or trades that have to register, who are now caught by the minister's statement yesterday. Did the cabinet really see this budget before it came in here? Did they really see it? Because I don't know how the Minister of Commerce can sign off now on the potential implications for tens of thousands of people who may be in arrears from not being able to register and therefore not being able to do their business and to earn money in this country. And the implications for their loans at the banks means that the implications at the banks for non-performing loans. The implications for the banks means that any of them going in for a loan between now and the next registration period in January may well now not be able to get that without producing the tax clearance certificate to the bank in order to borrow money to clear the same taxes. Let's hear who we're dealing with. First schedule, attorneys at law, medical practitioners, specialists, accountants, actuaries, architects, dental practitioners, engineers, land surveyors, quantity surveyors, vets, nurses and midwives, auctioneers, builders, contractors, druggists, master stevedores, real estate agents, town planners, advertising agents, auto body technicians, bear with me, auto mechanic, auto parts dealers, chiropractor, chiropodists, commission agents, customs brokers, dental hygienists, dental technicians, draftsmen, embalmers. Well, from midwives to embalmers is from cradle to grave. He got you all. Funeral directors and undertakers, flying instructors, gaugers, interior decorators, freelance journalists, watch yourself, medical laboratory technologists, midwives, naturopaths, nurses, both general and psychiatric, occupational therapists, operators of boats, that is to say, a person including a company, providing excursions, tours, water skiing, parasailing, and such other services. So the whole West Coast lit up, the tourist season. Up, and most of them tend to be very much independent and itinerant. People don't get to town often. Ophthalmic dispensers, optometrists, photographers, podiatrists, professional promoters. That is to say, I'm reading the law, a person engaged in promoting entertainment in fields such as music, dancing, sports, games, and spectacles of all kinds. But it must include the government because they're putting on the biggest spectacle in Barbados. Psychologists, physiotherapists, racehorse breeders or trainers, including breeders of studs, radiographers, diagnostic or therapeutic, ship's chandler, water sports instructors, that is to say, a person engaged in giving instructions in scuba diving, parasailing, water skiing, and such other water sports. I am sweating just from that list, but you know, Mr. Speaker, it ain't done yet. Here's the next list. Antique art or handicraft dealers, handicraft, commercial artists, dressmakers, tailors, designers, and the like, driving instructors all across this country, employment agency operators, furniture manufacturers, insurance practitioners, jewelers, landscape artists, manufacturers of any type of building material. I suppose people might be forgiven to feel that Pre-Conco might be caught in that, but if you get tax concessions and everything, you wouldn't need to have a tax clearance certificate.